Hello, everyone. I am Dr. KatherineT.Kelly. I am a holistic health psychologist. I also trained in medical psychology, did a postdoc in family medicine, but I also do soul healing. And I want to pose the question to you of what would change if all health practitioners understood the soul? Now, I'm very biased with this because I believe everything would change. So take this for some information. So to become a licensed psychologist, you have to go through 10 years of training. Four for undergrad, two for a master's degree, three for the didactic portion of the PhD program, and then you have a whole year of very intense treatment. It's basically an internship. So you're treating, you're doing individual, you're doing group, you're doing couples. 10 years. And then it takes about another year for you to get your licensure, maybe 2 years, depending on the person. And not to mention the fact that a lot of people like me did postdocs. I actually did a postdoc in family medicine because I was integrating a lot of medical health and psychological health into the same package, meaning that there's something called health psychology that focuses on the physical aspects of health along with the psychological aspects and how they interact. So for me, 10 years, and the reason I'm saying that is that not once during my training in either the psychological field or the medical field did I hear the word soul. And yet, all the way back historically to Hippocrates, who was the father of medicine, they basically knew way back then that the soul was an intricate part of who we are. And Hippocrates himself said that the soul is present in every organ and in every illness, and yet it is not taught anywhere in medical training or psychological training. So, why am I so passionate about this? When I created this model, I created it more as a wellness model, and I at first called it the whole health model. But then I realized what was missing was the soul, the individual aspect of that person that is so unique that we cannot put them into some sort of box or pocket. We really have to get to know them, understand them in order to help them heal. And so to me, the essence of who the person is the soul. It is the energetic part of us that basically interacts with every aspect of who we are, our reactions, our behaviors, our emotions, our physical reactions. A lot of the mind body health is all about how we take in stress and don't know how to deal with it and manage it. So the soul part of us is the energetic motivators, the energetic driver of everything that a human does. And yet, nowhere in modern medicine, nowhere in modern psychology is the soul really attended to. So, I have basically I developed that model about 19 years ago now, and I've used it to teach healthcare practitioners across the country and locally. And somewhere in the Midwest, and I don't remember what state it was, about 10 or 11 years ago, I was asked, would I ever consider creating a certification to help healthcare providers understand this because they don't get this. And over the years, I got more and more requests to do that. And so I have actually started a certification program. I call it the Soul Health Scholar Certification to help practitioners understand how the soul works in every aspect of life, how it works in every branch of these dimensions, and how it is that it displays itself in our reactions and in our wounding, in our inability or ability to heal, in our thoughts, all of those things. And what's interesting about this is conceptualization changes, treatment changes, prognosis changes, the interactions between you and your clients change. And basically, what happens is people heal at a deeper level, and practitioners know how to get there faster. So, it's one of those things where everything about modern training would change if we could integrate the soul. And so it goes deeper, it goes more wide. And what I mean by that is, again, it's really not the soul that's complex and confusing. It's the human condition that creates it. It's our reactions. It's how we are as humans that create the difficulties. And that's why we call it the human condition, is that whoever is experiencing whatever they're experiencing is seeing the world from those eyes, is seeing the world from their difficulties instead of seeing themselves from that soul perspective, which is the purest and deepest and most grounded part of us. So if we could start accessing that in our treatment, we would get so much further. And, I'm going to show a couple of things because this is going to help you understand partially what I teach, but also the whole understanding of the soul in general. So I call this the soul informed care model because of the fact that basically the primary attention always goes to the body. And yet it is the smallest aspect of who we are. Then psychological health comes in, and we do start addressing more of it. And sometimes it's about the body and the mind's interaction. So, how we create illness, how we hold illness, how we heal, all has to do with our psychological approach to life. But it's still not the biggest aspect of who we are. So, we really have to look at the entirety of a person in order for healing to occur. And that is the biggest thing that is missing from traditional care. That is the biggest thing that's missing from traditional training. And so the thing is, we don't know what we don't know. And way back when I was 23 years old and starting my master's program, or even 18 years old starting my bachelor's program, I didn't know about the soul. I didn't know how there was something deeper that was going on. As I learned and discovered it myself, my eyes opened, and my ability to help people at a much deeper and broader level was created. I was able to do things at a lot faster and a lot deeper, and I can get people further along. I have had people that have come to me in the worst possible cases after 45 plus years of living in abuse and difficulty, and in some cases, cults and just domestic abuse that lasted forever, or cultural issues. I mean, there's so many things, and they were so broken when they came, and now they live normal lives. And so it's because I help them understand the soul. I help them understand the fragments or the fractures that can happen at the soul level. I help them understand basically that depression is mostly suppression of their soul. Something is holding them back, and it could be their wounds, or it could be a situation that they feel like they can't get out of. So depression, I help them understand depression. I help them understand anxiety and how kind of there's energetic misfiring of their soul when there has been trauma, or when there has been something that an acute stress reaction to something, and they don't know necessarily how to heal it. Trauma, if in the human condition, we have so many different forms of trauma that get basically stamped on us and stamped on our souls. So I help people understand from a soul perspective what's going on. Once that light goes on, everything changes for them. They can do their healing in a different way. I can help them get there in a much faster way, and then all is well. And so it's an evolutionary process to understand the soul. But from a soul of psychology perspective, if we don't start attending to the deepest part of who we are, we're going to be in a heap of trouble, even worse than we are today. Our healthcare system is all symptom oriented. We don't really get the treatment we need at that deep level when we go to the doctor these days. Everything is super managed care. It's not just managed care, it's super managed care. We may be lucky if we get 15 minutes with our practitioners. That is not enough to understand the soul. Now, I'm biased with this because I know what this is. I know how to get there. I know how to teach practitioners. And, I'm going to show one more thing. I talk about the 3 levels of healing that basically we have to understand. We have to put the dots together to connect them to go, oh, that's why I'm feeling that way, or that's how, I hurt myself, or that's why, I just can't seem to get over this illness because I'm not taking care of myself in a particular way. So we have to connect the dots. And then we have a lot of emotional storage and a lot of emotional processing, especially in a world like today. We are in so much constant turmoil. And a colleague recently called it combat fatigue. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. Everybody's exhausted, and everybody's constantly trying to defend themselves from whatever is coming at them from a human condition perspective. So we have to learn from a soul level how to release these emotions. And then we have to get down to that soul healing level. We have to get down to figuring out how to remove those energetic imprints that have been stamped on us. I know how to do that. I'm teaching people how to do that, but I want to spread the word that basically it is time for psychologists and social workers and therapists and mental health counselors and coaches and health coaches and administrators and medical providers and of all sorts. It is time for us to get back to the soul. It is time for us to get back to that place where we can get to the core of what's going on, because otherwise we're not going to heal. We are not going to evolve beyond where we are today, which is exactly where we need to go. So in the Soul of Psychology series, I'm throwing out bits and pieces of what would be different and how to look at things differently. because I can guarantee you the people I'm teaching in my Soul Health Scholars course right now to help understand all of this, their conceptualization of an individual has changed completely. Almost every day, I get an email from one of the participants saying, "Whoa, I hadn't thought about that before." And wow, I'm already using some of these tools with my clients. And uh, or they're really applying it to their own lives and realizing, wow, that's what's keeping me stuck. So the point is, we have to get back to the soul. We have to bring it full circle. And when I published my first book, there is an author by the name of Larry Dossey. He does a lot of spiritual work. He is a physician. He's retired from actually doing treatment, but he is an author. He puts out books every 2 or 3 years. Wonderful, wonderful soul. And he wrote that basically my book, Soul Health, was resurrecting the soul back to its rightful place in health. And I loved those words because, again, this is coming from a medical practitioner. This was 13 years ago. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do is bring back the soul, bring it back to its rightful place. And that's why I talk about bringing basically ancient wisdom to the modern soul. How do we bring this back? How do I help people integrate this information so that the soul of psychology can get where it is supposed to be? So let's do this. If you are interested in learning more, go to my website, www.Dr.KatherineT.Kelly.com. Go to the Soul Health Scholars tab, which is at the top. Check that out. I've got a lot of videos out there, but it is time to bring the soul of psychology back. It is time to integrate the soul back into modern healing because that is the biggest piece that's missing. And we all can attest to the fact that the healthcare system is a mess right now, and what is missing is the soul. So love to hear your comments, love to hear your questions, and contact me if you want. Take care. Bye.